Hello, I'm Charlotte and this is Desperately Seeking Charlotte. Today I'm coming to you with a really belated wrap up. This is some books from December, January, and I was going to say February, but really, did I finish a book in February? No, not one that I really enjoyed anyway. So let's just ignore February. March is already off to a good start, so let's just hope we carry on down that train. These are not all the books I read in those few months. There's a few Christmassy ones that I'm going to save for my big Christmas book guide in December. And also there's some that I DNF'd that I might make a separate video about. Can't decide, so let me know if you'd like that down below. That is Bert crying outside the door because he wants to come in, but I keep telling him he's not allowed. So without further ado, let's get into the video. I'm going to break these up into categories. I'm going to go kind of broadly by age, and if you just want to skip to a certain genre, then take a look at the timestamps below. But the first book that I want to talk to you about is Sarah Hager Holt's Proud of Me. Now, I have another one of her books on my shelf. I think I have Nothing Ever Happens Here, but this one was provided to me via NetGalley and I loved it. I've written on Storygraph, easily the easiest 5-star I have ever given, and I wish I'd have done a more of a vlog style wrap up because I can't remember exactly why I gave it that, but I know it was a beautiful book. So in this we follow two kids, male and female, who are, I think they call themselves sort of twins because their mums are gay and they were pregnant at the same time with the two of them, and I believe they share a sperm donor. And we basically follow their two stories of our female character who is not bothered about finding out anything about her sperm donor and is more interested in finding out about herself, and a male character who has grown up with two mums and a sister and kind of craves that male influence in his life. And so yeah, really interesting story to read and another perfect middle grade for teaching kids about tolerance and difference in families, and I had to give that one a 5-star. So next we move on to YA fiction, and right at the beginning of December I read If This Gets Out. I believe that I gave this a 4-star. Had I read it when I was a teenager, probably a 5-star. I would say if you're a fan of the Heartstopper story, this is obviously not a graphic novel, but I would love this. I don't know if it's based on them, but it gave me kind of One Direction vibes. We have this world's biggest boy band, and it says, with a secret love, what happens? And we know from the beginning that, I cannot remember the names of the characters, but one of the guys in the boy band is gay. The other one believes that he's straight but is kind of struggling to come to terms with his identity. And I learned a lot from this book. I didn't know what prep was before I read this book. I had to go off and do some research myself, and I love when a book does that. The only thing about this book, I think I was a little bit too old for it. I kind of felt there were some not extremely graphic scenes, but I did kind of feel like a parent walking in on something that I shouldn't see at times. Now I am 31, so maybe it is just that this book isn't for my age range anymore, but most of the book really enjoyed it, and I think I gave that, like I say, a 4-star, but couldn't put this down. Really enjoyed it. And this was Sophie Gonzalez and Cale Dietrich. I have got, I believe, 2 more Sophie Gonzalez books to read, so I need to give them a go. I am sort of moving away from YA a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, I still do love a diverse bit of YA, but yeah, I am moving away from it a little bit. The next 2 books we are just going to call the Victoria Made Me Do It section. So the first one of these is The Farm by Joanne Ramos, and again I believe I gave this a 4 or 5-star. This is a dystopian fiction where there is a farm where women can go and basically be paid surrogates. They're looked after, they're given like organic food, and it really explores the fact that the baby inside of them is the one that they're doing everything for. So the baby's health comes first, and there are quite a few scenes in this where the women basically have their choices, etc., taken away from them, and I really thought this was amazing. It says it's about everything a book should be about: race, class, power and equality, and it's dark and funny all at the same time. And I get that, because I found myself really enjoying bits and laughing and thinking I shouldn't be laughing at this, but it was, yeah, very, very interesting read. And Victoria had given me that one, the first time we met up, I think, so that had been on my TBR for a long while. I am going to declutter the hardback copy, and I will be looking out for a paperback copy for my collection, because I feel that this is one that I would want to read again. And then The Pull of the Stars. As I'm filming this, Victoria is rereading this month, and I wish I'd have kind of hung on and read it along with her, but finally read this in December, I believe. And at first it took me I'd say the first third of the book to get into it. So I would say the first third of the book, I was going like 2.5, 3 stars. I was like, what is this woman making me read? I found it really slow. I found little things were irritating me. And then all of a sudden, I was reading this 5-star book. Like, Emma Donoghue is a fantastic author. And again, I have quite a few more of her books on my shelf to read. Story of my life, but I really did enjoy this in the end. I would say it's definitely worth pushing through the beginning bit, and again, I will be holding on to this because this is one that I think I would want to reread. There are already details of it that I have forgotten. Now, I will say for this one, I always have a content warnings database linked below, but this one especially, I would give content warnings for plague, graphic birth scenes, death of infants, death of mothers. There is a lot. This book is a lot. You have to be in a good headspace to read this. So now on to the adult contemporary portion of this. And in December, along with the Cozy Blanket Book Club, which at the moment is on a hiatus, I read The Winter Garden by Heidi Swain. Now, this was a lovely book, don't get me wrong. It is my least favourite in the Nightingale Swear books, but that doesn't mean that it was bad. I'd still give this a 3-star. It was just so much about the garden, and I'm not green-fingered. I don't like being outdoors, so that bit. But generally, again, another easy read, another gorgeous book by Heidi Swain. Heidi Swain writes these kind of books that are like a salve to your heart. Like, if you just want something warm and cozy where nothing horrendous happens. Obviously, all the characters go through trials and tribulations, and there's fallouts, and there's breakups, and there's sadness, but nothing too gut-wrenching. Heidi Swain is the way to go. And from May this year, I've got myself a little plan in the front of my diary to read all of Heidi Swain's books that I have on my shelves and haven't read yet, and I've got it so that they're in a kind of good order, so that I'm reading summer books in summer and winter books in winter, and I just am really looking forward to that. And then we're going to move on to adult mystery / thrillers, and I'm going to start with 2 by the same author. One I have here, one I bought on Kindle for 99p. And the first one is Silent Night by Nell Patterson. You will have heard me talk about Silent House by Nell Patterson in my top books of 2021. And Silent Night and Hyde are already up there in my top books for 2022. Silent Night was about a school for the deaf. Nell Patterson is a member of the deaf community herself, and all of her books have at least a deaf character in them, which I think really adds that bit of representation that you don't normally find in thriller books. This is the second in the Page Northwood series, but as it's a kind of police procedural detective work, it's not a spoiler for the first one. 5 kids have gone to sleep in this cabin in the woods. They wake up, 1 kid's missing, and a teacher's body is found in the woods. And through Page, we find out what happened. And I think this was better than Silent House. Silent House was her debut, and there were just a few little niggles that I think had been solved by this one and absolutely loved it. And then Hyde, again, is another, not particularly set within the deaf community, but there is a deaf sister. They all go out in the woods, I think it's on New Year's Day, for this bird spotting hike type thing, and there's a lot of secrets that come out and you never quite know who is telling the truth. So yeah, really enjoyed that one as well. I was in a real thriller kick in January. January was such a good reading month, and I don't know whether that's what hindered February, because all the books that I didn't really highly rate in January, I was still trying to read in February, so just DNF them in the end. But anyway, I read Anonymous Girl by Sarah Buchanan and Greer Hendricks, and this is my second book by them. I previously read and really enjoyed, oh, I can't think of the name, how? You Are Not Alone, I think it was called. But yeah, basically our main character finds out about a study that's happening where she would get some money, and all she has to do is give honest answers to moral questions. And that's all I really want to tell you. It goes from there, this study. There's a lot of to-ing and fro-ing, and I really get into their books and just really enjoy them. I am going to start again from March doing vlog style wrap-ups, because I think that's the only way you're going to get, sorry, I've got something in my eye. I think that's the only way you're going to get my kind of raw reaction to them. Whereas now, I remember really enjoying it, but I can't give you too much about it. And then the last in the thriller mystery section is People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd. I have just this second finished The Club by Ellery Lloyd and really enjoyed that too. And for a debut, this was excellent. I bought this myself, I think with Tesco Club card points sometime last year, and just hadn't got round to it. The end of last year, I kind of stopped reading thrillers. I think I do this to myself. I will binge on thrillers for so long, or binge on like women's like contemporary fiction. I'll read so much of it that I'll then be like, I'm bored of this, and have to leave it for a few months. But this was fantastic. This follows a social media star, and it says followed by millions, hunted by one. And I really, really enjoyed this. You could, as someone who is on the internet, it did make me fear for my own safety at times. And I think they're the kind of thrillers that I like. I either like really closed cabins, islands, people shut off somewhere, or something that is so realistic. This, I would say, if you'd read Claire McIntosh's I See You, this gave me the same kind of creeped out vibes as that did, and yeah, petrified me, absolutely petrified me. So that is a great thriller. Right, now on to the final lot of books, and these are my non-fiction. In January, thrillers and non-fiction were just totally my jam. So the first two, I actually listened to both of these, and these are Catherine Gray's The Unexpected Joy of the Ordinary and Sunshine Warm Sober. So Catherine Gray, most people know her from her book The Unexpected Joys of Being Sober, and I haven't listened to that book yet. I didn't think it would be my thing, as I don't have issues with alcohol. I'd say that I probably did when I was younger, but now with my health issues, I very rarely drink. And when I do, I drink something because it's a really nice taste. I don't anymore drink like I used to for confidence, etc, etc. However, I love The Unexpected Joy of the Ordinary, and I think anybody with anxiety or imposter syndrome who struggles with that kind of things would love this book. This was a reread for me, and I have listened to this book, I would say 7-8 plus times. I tend to put it on when I'm trying to fall off to sleep, if I'm having trouble sleeping. Her voice is soothing, and just the things that she's talking about are the kind of things that soothe my brain. Sunshine Warm Sober was a little bit more hard hitting, but there's a lot of talk about boundaries, which I really, really like. She says at one point about how when you're putting boundaries in place, there'll always be someone, be it a close friend or family member, that will hear, except for you. So if you say, look, I don't want any visitors at the moment, I want to be alone, this person will always hear it as except for you. And that rung really true for me, that it's such a good book about boundaries, and I think I'm quite good at putting boundaries in place, but there is always still that part of me that doesn't want to upset people, and I think that will take a lot longer to go away. We next have The Windowsill Gardener, which I picked up for £2 in the works, and this is just a really great little book that shows you how to grow things on your windowsill. Haven't had a go yet myself. I'm kind of waiting until the warmer weather and B&M starts having their garden centre stuff in, but I'm going to try and grow my own herbs and things. I then read Claire Seal's Real Life Money. Now I'm going to be passing this back to a charity shop, I believe. I have highlighted a lot of stuff in here that I want to make notes of myself. I found this book was fantastic in being a completely non-judgmental guide to taking control of your finances. I'm not in debt, and I haven't been in debt since I was a student, but I'm terrible at having money left over at the end of the month, and this really helped me examine some of the reasons that I spend and why I spend and what I spend my money on. And I think us millennials do get a bit of a bad rep in the finance spaces, because you've all seen the newspapers that are like, oh, if millennials just stopped buying avocado on toast, they'd be able to buy a house. And it really bugs me. I was speaking to my mum the other day about how their first mortgage on their house was £11 a month. And yes, I do get that their wages were lower, but it's not comparable in the slightest. So yeah, this book is fantastic. It's part memoir, part guide, and I just felt like Claire knew me. I do follow her My Frugal Year on Instagram, and I just really felt like she understood me, and I was very grateful for that. And the last two books that I've got to show you, these are both 5-star reads, and one was a reread. The reread was How to Break Up with Fast Fashion. Now, if you're someone that buys fast fashion a lot, I would definitely recommend a read of this one. Again, non-judgmental. We all know that Primark is not the best place to shop. We all know that their ethics are down the toilet, but this really goes through it. And again, I've underlined things. It says, because we're part of a society and every decision we make has a knock-on impact. And although I carried on charity shopping last year, I had really forgotten why I started doing it in the first place and the ethical implications of fast fashion. I have been having really low body image for about 6 to 8 months now, and I was forever ordering things offline and picking up things in the supermarket just to try and get me feeling a bit better, and then I would always feel really guilty afterwards. And this book kind of goes along the lines of, you are only human, and every little thing you do, it kind of goes down the reasoning of, we don't all need to be 100% perfect. If we could all just do little things, we'd make such a difference to the planet and the people on it. So really enjoyed that one. And then further reading from this, as this book is mentioned a few times in this, I read Consumed by Aja Barber. And I think that this just goes one step further. Whereas that book is very much how to break up with fast fashion, this really cemented my reasons why. And Aja also talks about in here, can I find any of the chapters? Again, I've highlighted quite a lot of this. It's talking about what happens to clothes that we donate that don't get sold, because I think we can get into a bit of a cycle of, oh, well, it doesn't matter if I buy it, because if I don't like it or it doesn't fit, I'll just donate it back. And there is a lot of clothing in this world that doesn't ever get worn by anybody, and the problems it's causing. Aja also talks about how we shouldn't try and pin all of this onto plus size women. I know that there is a lot more clothes in charity shop for size 14 and under. I'm a size 18. I find quite a bit, but actually as I've got bigger, I found that what I can buy there's a smaller range. I used to find a lot more when I was a 14, 16. and I just think everybody should read this. That is my recommendation from this video. If you take nothing away from it, buy this book, read it. So that's all the great books that I've read in the last couple of months. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like and a subscribe below, and I'll be back on Wednesday with another video. Until then though, look after yourselves. Bye.